Ceri Jones.
Hi guys, and welcome to this week's podcast. This week's guest needs no introduction, for he is one of the biggest names in the fly fishing world. He has had many world record casting achievements, a professional ghillie for over 20 years, caught salmon to over £30, and has a successful tackle brand, which he started back in 2007. He tells us of his journey from when he fished with his dad in the hill lochs, Highlands of Scotland, through to the present day, and the creation of what many believe to be the best fly rod on the market, the FX2. Welcome to my chat with Scott Mackenzie. It's actually great to chat again, Scott. I know you're a busy man.
It can be at times, depending on the time of year right enough, but yes, very, very much so, yeah.
Well, before we get on to the chat, how was your season been so far?
The season in Scotland generally has been quite good and very positive. You know, salmon fishing, which we're probably more known for, you know, to be honest with you, you know, from a tackle brand manufacturer, we do a lot more single-handed rods than we do double-handed rods, but my heart does lie slightly more towards the salmon fishing, and the salmon fishing in Scotland this year has been a marked improvement on it. It really has, right from both the spring fishing, good gross numbers. We're still lacking a few of the autumn runs. They're not coming in the way they used to, but in general, a lot better. The season very positive this year.
I've been looking forward to this chat for quite some time, actually, because you're a name in the sport, not only for the casting, all your achievements and your business. I want to know more about yourself. And is it Inverness you're actually from?
From Inverness, born and bred, kind of brought up in Inverness. I got into, when I left school, I actually I worked for the Royal Mail. I was a postman on a bike, and I always liked or was very keen kind of fishing, shooting, and so at the age of 20, I got the chance of a job in the far northwest of Scotland, a very remote location up near a place called Lough Corrib, right in the extreme far northwest tip of Scotland. And so for first 20 years of my life, I was from Inverness, and then for the next 20 odd, I was a ghillie right round Scotland. I was very fortunate in as much as I learnt a lot. I was very keen salmon angler on the River Ness, which is quite a big river that flows through Inverness.
Yeah.
But when we went to the far northwest of Scotland, I caught the tail end of the sea trout fishing. I was up there in the late 80s. I caught the tail end of the last of the good sea trout fishing before the kind of fish farming industry kind of, you know, they all died off, the sea trout. So, you know, I fished some of the famous lochs up there, Loch Stack, and used a form of fishing called gapping, and also we had several spate rivers on the estate as well. So it was a far different approach to what I was brought up with, which was on the slightly bigger Scottish rivers. So and also for brown trout, we had over 60 named hill lochs on the estate I was on.
Wow.
So it was a good way of kind of seeing different angles of fishing. And while I was up there, we also ran a hatchery as well. So it was another string to my bow when we were there as well. So it was good.
So there's no sea trout at all on the rivers up there now, no?
There is some, but they struggle with the sea lice. The sea lice is a big problem. It's very well documented with the problems with the fish farms and that. They've never openly admitted it, but pretty much they haven't. But yet they haven't, if you know what I mean. But there is still a few, but nothing to what they were. If you look at some of the rivers, like the River Ewan, Loch Marie, it was they nothing under £3 was classed as a sea trout. They were, very much put back. And it was a question of how many you were going to get rather than if you're going to get one. And that was for all the big, Loch Marie, Loch Stack, Loch Hope, some of the bigger sort of northwest lochs in Scotland, yeah.
I've just come back from Ireland, and it's a similar story there on the west coast of Connemara, all the rivers years ago. Used to have fantastic sea trout, The salmon fishing ain't as bad as the sea trout for some reason.
Yeah, that's mainly the smolts when they leave. They head off to the Faroes, Faroe Islands, Greenland, whereas the sea trout smolts hung round the coast. They're more a coastal fish. So certainly in the west of Scotland, I know on the east coast of Scotland, I think they head across the North Sea, but in the west coast of Scotland, they do hang around and are more susceptible to the sea lice. And where I was involved in one river, the River Ewe in Scotland, and both the sea trout and the salmon smolts, once they left the river, they were actually coming back in because there were so many sea lice on them. Hundreds. They were absolutely infested with sea lice, so much so they couldn't get back out to sea. It was terrible.
Yeah.
They were hoping to come back in and the fresh water to take the sea lice off, but it was just so. Yes, they've got a real problem over there with that. Unfortunately, yeah.
Well, I know nowadays you're a really busy man because there's so many shows around nowadays, more than ever probably. And I know you go to most of them, if not all of them. Do you get much time to actually fish yourself?
I do. I try and I'm very fortunate. Someone asked me the question fairly recently, and so I sat down and took 10 minutes over a coffee and thought about it, and I got to 40 named rivers within an hour's drive of me. So I'm very fortunate that staying in the Highlands of Scotland that I have got access to within a reasonable drive, would say within an hour's drive, I've got fishing or access to quite a lot of fishing. So I do pick my time, and to be honest with you, it probably makes me look quite good because every time I go fishing, or not every time, but my strike rate is actually very good. But in fairness, I am only going when I know conditions are good because I have to kind of pick my moment. So I'll get a phone call, Scott, there's a spate on such and such a river, and I know you go at the right time of year. My pet Labrador could probably capture me. So it does improve your chances rather than paying your money and taking a chance. But yes, I still get a fair bit in, and then I like my spring fishing. The spring fishing for me is the best time of year for up till sort of the end of May for me is a time. And but also we used to fish in myself, my son, in Norway quite a lot. The river that we were fishing called the Resa in the far north, they've actually closed at the moment. We're hoping they'll be reopened next year. It's been closed for the last 4 years due to lack of numbers and a wee bit of politics. But that's a fantastic river. It's a big fish river. It's if you go for a week, if you get 2 fish, you're doing well. But I'm looking for them to be 25, £30 sort of thing. So yeah, you're going for quality more than quantity for sure.
Yeah, and that's Norway.
That's in far north in Norway, about 4-hour drive north of a town called Tromsø, right in the far north of Norway. It sits between sort of the Mulsava and Alta. It's fantastic about it, and it's a beautiful part of the world. That sort of northern Norway, the whole of Norway is, but northern Norway.
I've never been to Norway. I've been to Iceland a couple of times.
The thing about Norway, if you're driving along, and certainly in the northern part, it sounds a kind of a little bit what we call cordy, cheesy, but it's so unspoiled. It's never changed. You've still got the wooden houses, and you could almost it could turn a corner and there's a longboat, a Viking longboat in the harbour, because it's that unchanged. It really is, as you drive along, people are still drying fish and wraps outside the house, and it's just not just changed. It's not changed a bit in probably several hundred years, and it's really nice seeing that traditions getting kept, it really is.
Before we actually went live now to record this, you said you were chatting to me in the storeroom, and you showed me everything around you, and there's like gear everywhere and loads of rods. I guess a lot of that is obviously for sale, but you do a lot of shows, don't you? Now, when you do the shows, I know you do your casting demonstrations and you sell the products. Tell me more about your casting. I've been doing some homework on you, and I couldn't get the right figure because it says that you're the spade casting world champion. How many times have you had it?
What happened was I created a DVD, and at the time I'd won it 3 times.
Yeah.
So I was known, but I actually went on to win a team event and then another event after that. So I could easily class myself as 5 times world champion. But
wow.
To be honest with you, I don't kind of start. I'm not one to sort of boast, or quite the opposite, underplay and things. So, but yes, if you were asking me for a figure, then probably 5 times world champion. But certainly when I did the DVD, and everyone knows me as sort of, because I did the DVD at 3 times, then yes, I. But probably 5 as officially in my own head, it would be 5. Yeah.
So what is your record distance?
Had quite a lot of distances. The main achievement in the distance casting is when I broke a record that stood for 110 years. The first ever world record distance spey cast was set on actually in the Highlands here, in the Lough Corrib here called the River Ness, by a guy called Alexander Grant. And there was a lot of books written about Alexander Grant, and he was certainly way ahead of his time. But he set the first ever world distance record on the Ness in 1895.
Wow.
When he made his own rods out of greenheart wood, which was fairly readily available in the Highlands at the time, because it comes from Africa. You get 2 woods, you get greenheart and you get blackheart, and greenheart is widely used. Anything to do with wood and water, and what I mean by that is if you're making piers or jetties, anything that involves wood being and the construction of wood in water for any length of time, they used greenheart because it was a very dense wood and it didn't rot, or took a very, very long time for it to rot. So, but it also bended and flexed very well. So you would have seen the cane rods of kind of yesterday, and also the very dark green ones are normally greenheart. And Grant made the rods out of greenheart, got his fly lines made, which were silk lines, by the Harris Tweed weavers off the west coast of Scotland, where they make all the Harris Tweed, and they actually wove his fly lines for him.
Wow.
Amazing, and his fly lines actually came out flat. They were actually a flat line rather than a round line, and they reckon it cut through the air better than what a round line would. And this was all going on in the north of Scotland, Highlands of Scotland, 125 years ago, or 130 years ago. And so amazing. And Grant, without shooting any line, because at the time the line he used was a grease line. They had to put grease on the line because the line was made of silk. It was made of fabric. It get waterlogged when you put it in the water. Wow. So they added grease to the line to make it float. And actually, if you think about it from a fishing point of view, it was actually a very good line, because what they used to do is grease the lines up. And if you wanted a full floater, you greased the whole line. If you wanted a sink tip of any length, you just didn't grease that part. So, and if you wanted a sunk line in the winter time or the autumn, the spring, you didn't grease it at all. So it was actually one line could do you pretty much for everything, But from a fishing point of view, it's probably quite good actually when you think about nowadays, where you've got all the different fly lines that you can get.
The different tapers and that, isn't it?
And different tapers and everything that goes with that. But what the grease did on the lines, it made them quite sticky because the grease stuck on the lines.
Right. And
so in Victorian times, they couldn't shoot line like they used, like we do nowadays. So on the Ness in 1895, Grant lifted the whole 65 yards, which is 185 feet, and out of the water, 195 feet, sorry, out of the water, repositioned and recast it. So that was a huge achievement for him, using a wooden rod that he made himself and a circle I made in Harris, and
You must have had arms like cow's legs.
Now, you think that, but he was actually a very small man and slim build. And that was the fascinating part about it, because it was about getting as we always say as a casting instructor, let the rod do the work. Now, it was a heavy rod. It was actually a 21-foot green heart rod he was using at the time. So it was, it was a huge rod. It's an amazing story, actually. There's some good books. There's a book called Fine and Far Off by a guy called Donald Rudd. His pen name was Jock Scott. Jock Scott with pen name a guy called Donald Rudd, who wrote quite a few books on Grant. There's one called Fine and Far Off, and very good read if any of your listeners ever want to look for something different. But no, Grant it was getting the rod to do the work, and so he set this fantastic record, which everyone thought would be unbeatable. It was a huge length of line. And then in 2005, at what was it called, the CLA Game Fair, the big kind of nationals thing, what we call now the England
I used
Game
to do
Fair. Great show. I set a new record of 68 yards. I beat it by 3 yards.
Wow.
So that was probably my biggest achievement, rather than the overall distances we were getting. To break the record of 110 years, and Grant being a local guy I knew quite a lot about, that was a big thing for me. As a personal thing, that was quite a big achievement, to be the first to break in. And I've come away from it, and I know the distances have been broken since I've kind of come away from it a wee bit. But that for me was a big achievement. Yeah.
Your rod was slightly less than 21 foot then, though, was it?
A little bit less. We're using 18-foot rods. Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
So still quite a long rod. Yeah, a long rod. But, we were getting some fantastic distances before I kind of gave it all up. In the World Championships in 2006, actually in Ireland, with myself, Ian Gordon, Bill Drury, Ian Fairgrieve and Gary Scott with the Scottish team. And that morning, we'd all measured out, and conditions were perfect. They really were. And I was throwing 80 yards that morning in a single speaker. Yeah. Measured, and the boys all witnessed it, and I was on fire. The final didn't go well for me. The wind changed, and it was all fair. But I just, because it takes so long in an outdoor event to run these things, that change it, and I didn't do so well in the final. But that morning, if they'd had the final there and then with the wind conditions, it was a long way. It was going out, but so it was good. It's almost a different sport, You've got distance casting, and then you've got different,
Is that competition every year to keep the title, or is it just every so often they do it?
I think it's every so often. I think they've started doing a kind of annual thing round the world. I've kind of come away from it now a fair bit there. And so I'm not sure exactly what's going on with it nowadays. But I think they do. There's 2 or 3. I know there's one in San Francisco, and they call it kind of the World Championship of Casting. But I think they've also do a kind of more official world casting type meet as well. So I'm not sure where we are with all that anymore. But the boys are still doing that. I think they're keen. But 80 yards, it measured 80 yards. You can have 80 yards out, but it doesn't know 80 yards. But it was witnessed. Yeah. So it's a long way. And I was a bit younger, but thinner, and a bit fitter back then. But that'll be near 20 years ago. Certainly, very good memories in the distance. And what was good at the time, it was new. It was very popular because it was new distances and people were breaking records, and it was all quite new and exciting. And it was good times. It was the right time to be in it for sure.
Yeah. Well, you're known for your double-handed casting. Now, do you actually fish the lochs for the browns? Because you were saying you had 60 on the estate when you were starting off on that job, and you got plenty more around you now. Or do you just, for your pleasure fishing, you just like being in the river?
To be honest with you, I'll fish in a bucket if I got a chance. I'll fish for anything, really, to be honest, I'm a true fisherman in that respect, and I do a lot of trout fishing. I do kind of get tagged as a salmon fisherman, but I'm quite happy, or just as happy, maybe in a boat drifting for brown trout with a team of 3 flies on, and a bug fly and working back a team of flies, or on a couple of years ago I went down a chance to fish on the River Test with dry fly down in Hampshire in England. I had a fantastic evening down there with a dry fly.
Yeah.
So yes, I enjoy all types of fishing, to be honest with you. So no, I kind of get tagged as a salmon fisherman, mainly because of my ghillie days and coming from the north of Scotland. But you'll see me just as much, or I'm just as happy drifting in a boat somewhere as you will on a big Scottish river sort of thing. Yeah.
I do like my lochs fishing, just drifting on a boat, and so much so that I go to Ireland an awful lot. My house is up in the market, as I was telling you earlier. So hopefully by the end of this year, I'll be making the move totally over there. But it's not just lake. Every now and again, I go on a river, and each time I'm on the river, I think to myself, I should be doing this more, because I do enjoy it. But on a day where I got the option to go fishing, I always go on the lake. It's something which, like you said, I'm happy to cast a line to any fish, really.
If it's in your blood, properly, so to speak, it's you are. And if I'm being honest, I'm probably quite spoiled up here, living where I do, in as much as we've got so much fishing around us, so we can kind of pick and choose, and also the river, the trout fishing on the rivers here can be excellent. And I think when we were speaking to you earlier, and you're speaking to my son, he came up with a very good point where with some of the salmon rivers in Scotland not fishing as well for salmon as they once did. So now I think you'll see more and more people fishing for brown trout on them, on certain beats, because there's brown trout there that have never seen a trout fly. There really isn't. Yeah. So I getting a lot more popular because it's all based around salmon. I can also see that, I'm not seeing that all the famous beats are suddenly going to become brown trout fish or anything like that. But I think you're going to see access more to some beats that were never fished for brown trout. They really weren't. Maybe that might be something that a growing industry sort of thing. So there's definitely on the River Ness here where we are, there's some fantastic trout fishing. It really is, and they're never fished for. They're really not, and it's totally untapped. So it's good.
It's a place I'd like to come. I used to come up for my holidays as a child, family holidays. We used to go to Scotland, and I went to Loch Ness. And I was hoping to see the monster, but I didn't see it. But
you need to drink the right brand of whiskey.
Yeah, but I'd be interested in, because I got my passion as well is for the ferox, and I can imagine there might be some big trout in Loch Ness. Would you think there would be?
Yeah, they are there. We know they're there. Not something I've done a lot of there, but they do get some. They get some very, very large trout. They really do.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm involved in that much, but I do know the guys who go out with. They keep it quite secret. If I'm being honest with you, you don't hear much about it. I'm probably quite rightly so. They keep it quite quiet, but I do know that they get some very large ferrets. They really do. Loch Ness, Lough Corrib, places like that. Yeah.
It can be very addictive. I've done an awful lot of it the last sort of 20 years, really, on Corrib. But I find they don't feed that deep. But after saying that, it's roach they feed on there. It's in it's shallower-ish water, sort of 25 foot. But I guess the char tend to be in deep water. So whatever the bait are, the big ferrets are going to be, I suppose.
I think that's the difference. We up in kind of the north of Scotland compared to Corrib, we're way north. I'm not sure where we are, latitude line, but we're a good bit north. So yes, I think you wouldn't normally get the ferrets in that close. You might get them on a drop somewhere, but guys, I know now getting very popular is pike on the fly, because we've got a lot of lochs with pike, and we haven't got quite the size you do in Ireland in them, because I know I spent a wee bit of time in Ireland with the shows. I think there must be a bit of. Well, I know there is Irish blood in my vein for sure. I love going to Ireland. It's never a problem going to a show in Ireland.
Yeah.
So it's I know you get some, in Corrib and some of these places, you've got monstrous pike, and I don't think we have the feeding here for them, but they get the massive ones. But we pike on the fly has gotten increasingly popular here. We now sell quite predator rods, 9 foot, 8 weights, 9 weights, and stuff like that for the guys targeting the pike.
I've had many on Corrib, up to 20 to 25, quite a few. But near the home here from where I am is Chew Valley, and that's a different kettle of fish altogether. There's so many pike. In fact, I think the British record just got broken this season. £47. That's a stocked water, so they're going to get. It's a different looking fish, where the wild fish, like up in Scotland and in Ireland, they're longer, more muscle. Where the pike on Chew Valley, they just fat.
Yeah, that must be down to feeding. I would have thought. Maybe I know nothing about pike and don't profess to be an expert on pike in any state. But normally when you see it like that, would be a difference in probably in the feeding. They're getting big rainbows and eating big rainbows and getting well fed and putting up weight on without doing too much work for them. Yeah.
What is your best salmon to date?
My biggest salmon is £38. And that was caught in Norway, in the Racer River, Norway. And I have hooked them in Scotland in the 30s. I've had at least 3 on. Being a ghillie, I've spent a lot of time on the riverbank. So, there'd be something wrong if I hadn't bumped into a few large fish over the years. And I've definitely had 3 on that have been, whether they were early 30s or mid 30s, always difficult to tell, when and I remember hooking one large, it was a copfish had jumped out of the water several times. It was no thing of beauty. It was late in the season, and it was, I'm not sure which colour of tartan it was wearing, but it certainly wasn't silver. It was black and red, this thing. But it was huge. It was a big fish, and it was well in the 30s, and it came off, unfortunately. But up in Norway, where I was going, we've had, I've had a 31 and a 38, and lots just below that, 28, 25s, and for me, I enjoy that because I was a wee bit spoiled in as much as, because I was a ghillie for 22 years, I've seen a lot of salmon get caught, and caught a lot because I've been on the riverbank myself and helped my guests literally thousands of salmon. So I going somewhere for a week for me and targeting very large fish appeals to me a bit more than going and just catching gills and stuff like that. And that's just, if I'm being honest, it's probably because I'm a wee bit spoiled, because I've seen such good fishing that I don't need now to go and catch lots of gills and stuff like that. But if I hook into a fish of a lifetime, then that does appeal to me, type of thing, So it's quite unique that way. But but yeah.
I guess a 40 would be your dream fish next, I suppose. Yeah.
It's starting to get, as your record goes up, it gets harder to beat. But yes, for sure, it's hard to break that in Scotland nowadays. So it would probably have to be Norway in the future, God willing, that we get back up there, and they are in the water, because the good thing about fishing that rivers in there and where I was fishing is that you do know that as you fish down the pool, there could be the fish of a lifetime looking at your fly, and that whether it takes or not, it's a different story. But because they do, on average, I think they get 1 to 2 over 50 a year off the river.
Wow.
So they're in there with a 5-0, not a 4-0, So you do know that they're in it there. Not many, but they, for sure, when you're fishing down the pool, he could be there and he could be looking at the fly, type of thing. So that does appeal to me a wee bit. Yeah,
that's the great thing about fishing for wild fish. Your next cast could be the fish of a lifetime, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's what keeps us going, with reduced numbers. certainly in the salmon fishing. Yes. For me nowadays, if I'm being honest, I enjoy my day. I'll go with my friends, and I enjoy the whole day. I enjoy the company. We'll have a good lunch, and just enjoy the day. And if we get fish, we get fish. If we don't, we don't. Oh, don't get me wrong, we're trying to catch fish, but if we go, there's no water, or you go and it's too much water, the water's coloured because there's been a heavy rain or something, then fine, it's fishing. I don't get too worked up in that anymore. But so I just genuinely enjoy my day. Yeah. And if you get to that point, then you never have a bad day's fishing then, to be honest. No.
And I'm like you. I like the social side of it, and stopping for lunch as well, and talking to other anglers. And it adds to the whole thing. And the fish then, I remember a time, I'd be out on the lake, and I wouldn't stop for lunch. I'd be fishing into dark. But now they come in my time, not their time. And you seem to enjoy it just as much, if not more.
Yeah. I think we certainly, I'm 56 now, and I ghillied for a long time, so I spent a lot on it. So I've been very fortunate to see some very good fishing. So I've got that kind of out of my system where I have to catch a lot of fish to have a good day.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the newer anglers haven't had that, and they're still, really keen. Maybe like yourself was, and myself when we were young, and you wouldn't come in for meals or nothing because you were trying to catch more. And that's great if you're still got that hunger. Perfect. But I never have a bad day's fishing, and that's genuinely because if I get them, I get them. If we don't, we don't.
If you're enjoying this podcast and want to listen to more, please consider becoming a patron, where you'll get weekly podcasts from some of the biggest names in the sport and access to over 190 episodes. Plus, for this month's Patreon prize, Scott has given away a prize available to paid Patreons only. The chance of winning Mackenzie trout fly line of their choice. To become a patron to the channel, visit patreon.com/Casting with Kerry Jones, or visit my website castingwithkerryjones.com. How did it all start for you right back in the beginning? How old are you, and was it your dad that got you into it?
Yes, it was. I started fishing with my father at probably a very early age. We used to go to some of the whole lochs fishing, and probably that was where I learned to fish first. It was trout fishing, and that was both fly fishing and probably spinning. We'd throw a little net out and wind it back or something like that. And when you're a youngster, maybe under 10, you're wanting to catch something. You don't really care if it's on a fly or a worm or a lure. You're just wanting to feel something on the end of the line. And so we did a bit of that. And then we had a local river called the Nairn. We fished there quite a lot. And I really loved it. And I was only about 5 minutes away on my bike from the river. The angling club, which is still going, Inverness Angling Club, were very good with the youngsters. They really did. They kind of, with advice and where to go, not to go. And there was a few juniors in the club at that time. All of us have progressed on to still fishing and now we're in our 50s and 60s. And it was good. It was like, the whole summer holidays. That's what I just literally lived on the river the whole time. My parents hardly saw me. They used to take food down to the river for me because I wouldn't come home for meals and that. But they knew where I was safe. It was all good. But so I just loved it from a very early age. I caught my first salmon when I was 10 years old, and I've been fishing. We weren't catching many when I was that sort of age, but yes, over the years, and then just got really addicted to it and have had a real passion for all types of fishing ever since then, whether it's trout, salmon, or whatever. Yeah. And I do enjoy trying different things. Like trout, maybe go on a chalk stream or go on a big loch and try dapping. Different things, it's always good trying, especially if it's something you've not tried before. It's always good, they're nymphing and check nymphing. There's so many, under the wing of fly fishing even, there's so many different totally different things. From sort of Euro nymphine to dappy, and you couldn't get much different. So and it all comes under the wing or the umbrella of fly fishing, which is good. It is.
And there's always something new you come across, isn't it? Because I was fishing Lough Corrib about a month ago with a guy Neil O'Shea, and he was telling me, and as far as he knows, there's only one or two lochs, you can say, it's still done. What he did, we were actively looking for salmon, and most people will just drift down these certain marks and go over them and loch style fishing, but they don't do that. And what he actually does, he'll see like a rock in the loch, and he knows over the years, he's been brought up in the lake, certain marks on the lake where the salmon lie, like in a river. So basically, we were drifting down over this mark, and then he said, right, and we changed round. He went on the oars, and he would hold me back, and we were just fishing this rock over and over for about 25 minutes, and I didn't see nothing for a while, and I said, you sure there's fish here? He said, there's more than one here. He said, next thing, up one just jumped, and he said, there'll be a few there, and as it happened, I actually hooked one, and he was on and off. But that's what they do. They just go to different parts of the loch, and they'll just concentrate on these certain marks,
Yeah, I think if you know the waters you're fishing that well, that certainly in Scotland, the salmon lie in fairly shallow water. In some of the big Scottish lochs, if you're drifting for them, the salmon actually lie very close to shore, and sometimes there could be a small burn, a small stream that comes in to the lake or the loch, and you would target that area. And if you know it really well, you say, well, there's a big stone there, or a little gravel bar that comes down, and the fish lie off the drop off, or different things like that. And that's when you've got someone that really knows the water. And if you had someone like that guiding you for the day, that's when they're worth every penny, because
Absolutely.
they know exactly where to put you. Probably not to put you, because you could be 20 metres off that stone and you won't even see a fish, where for whatever reason they like that stone where the depth of the stone is at, or the angle, or there's something that the fish like about that and that mark, and they hang around it.
Yeah. Well, one other trip which I fished just before then, was about 2 months ago now, on a river, I went up to Chatsworth Estate and with Chris Haig. And I got to thank Chris big time for introducing me more or less to your brand, because I was using his rod. I had a couple of casts there, and anyway, we've arranged with yourself then to get me an FX2, and I am totally in love with it. Honest to God, it's so special. I have fished with practically every brand over the years, and there come a time where they're all much the same. Good rods, but they, for me, they're a bit vanilla. There's nothing special. But as soon as I picked that up, it put a smile on my face, because you can tell straight away you're something different. Not only I found it was light, and it was a 10-foot for a 6. When I actually cast the line with it, then I found it was crisp and responsive. But what surprised me as well, when I was playing a fish, then you could feel the whole rod bending. So it was like the full package. And I've fished with a few people since with it, and as soon as you pass the rod in their hand, you can tell you're waiting for the smile. It was something special. Now I know it's the FX2, and you had one before the FX1. Now this is quite new. Then the FX2 you've got out now, yeah.
It is. We were the first company in the world to do fly rods made with a material called graphene, and graphene is the lightest, strongest material known to man. The two professors that discovered graphene actually won the Nobel Prize for Physics for discovering graphene. And it's a fantastic material. We pioneered the use of it in fly rods. We never looked back since we launched the rods. We were actually in the BBC International News, not just the main news, but the worldwide news on the wee bulletins, and it tells you different things happen around the world. Normally not good news. It's normally something's happened somewhere. And along the bottom it was Scottish fishing tackle manufacturer revolutionised fly fishing by creating graphene rods. It was huge for us, and we've never looked back. So we pioneered the use back in 2015 with the rods. We did FX1s, which were fantastic. And now we've moved on to our second generation, and these, it's fair to say, are the best rods we've ever made. They really, really are. Won the last 3 independent tackle tests in trout and salmon, which is, you're up against all your brands, your Sages, your Hardys, all the other brands that are out there, major brands. And we've done very, very well for them. And even the independent people, and like yourself, first every rod to get, comments like that, thanks very much, because, you've tried a lot of tackle. It's that, and you felt the difference in it, and what's the success from the Mackenzie brand? I've been on the go a long time and did the ghillie and the World Championships and had a real passion for fish fishing and fly fishing all my days. But I was very fortunate that when I set up the brand, because I was a ghillie and casting instructor, I knew a lot of people in the industry, and I put together a really good team around me. Andrew Toft, with a former world champion caster, Ian Kirk, an international guide, Chris Haig now, international guide, fantastic cast instructor as well. And I think in the core design team, there's over 150 years riverbank experience just in ourselves, And then we've also got a lot of guides out in Iceland, Norway, British Columbia, right round the world now, using our stuff and giving us feedback on everything we're doing as well. So I've been very fortunate to, and we call the brand, 2 slogans we got. Well, when we came out first, we called the brand Mackenzie DTX, and that was Mackenzie DTX designed through experience.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah. Well, we put the X in instead of the EI, and and that initially was kind of my experience when we started off, but then it soon became almost a team experience, and a lot of and it's not. And people say, well, what Scott Mackenzie might know about like a 15-foot salmon rod or something like that, but what does he know about making a Euro-nymphine rod and a 10-foot 3-weight or 2-weight or something like that? And I say, well, I do know a bit because I'm very keen in all types of fishing, but also within the design team, like Chris Haig is a specialist in all that, and so he can put valuable information into exactly what we're needing, and so as a team we can really, and we generally do, I think, make the best fishing tackle in the world, and going by the reviews that everyone else thinks that way as well, sort of thing. So it's going very. I'm very, very passionate about the whole thing, and we certainly put a lot of time, effort getting the product. So nothing goes to market until we're 100% happy with it. It has to be right. There's no grey area at all, sort of thing. So there's certainly a lot of heart and soul goes into every product we do, for sure.
I encourage anyone, if they go into the show, I guess that's the only place they can try your rods out.
We do the stockists, mainly the kind of the big stockists. So in Scotland we've got a few stockists, but likes of Glasgow Angling Centre in the middle of Scotland, we would have Sportfish, Farlow's would be a stockist. In the south of Ireland, Ardere Springs Angling Centre, and in the north of Ireland, it would be Barney Winters, Livermore and Gines. So we've got certain key. We mainly deal with just the best tackle shops. We don't deal with a lot of this very small ones, because a lot of people just come to me. But yeah. So either the good thing about, if you come to a show, you can try out stuff at a show, whether it's myself or through one of the retailers. It's always good to get a rod in your hand and put a line on the rod, to try it out, and that's a big thing, you know.
And if anyone needs help, I guess, or advice, they can just get in touch directly with you. I guess your number's on the website, yeah?
Absolutely. Give me a ring. I'm very much hands-on. One thing we do excel at is customer care. We will never be beaten on customer care. My direct number's on the website. If anyone's got a question, they can get hold of myself or my son or someone there. That part of exceptional, because you normally from other companies you might get a rep or someone getting back to you or something like that, and it's very difficult to get hold of someone. But equally, God forbid, if you ever had an issue, you jam the rod in the car door or something happens, you're on a boat and you trip and you fall on it, and you've got a problem, you've got my direct number, and I'll do my level best to get that sorted out very, very quickly for you. So we back all our products up with probably the best customer care there is on the market, and we certainly go out of our way to make sure that everyone's well looked after, you know.
Yeah, and you've got the full range as well. You've got the lines as well, and you've also brought out new range of clothing, and that as well, if I got it right now, I've got graphene as well, yeah?
We have. We do fly lines to suit every rod. I think I was just going to quote a figure there, and I wasn't sure. I don't know how many rods we actually. I think it's 38 different models we're doing at the moment.
Wow.
Some kind of come and go a wee bit. We're just finishing off one or two models, and we've got new ones, different models coming out next year. Within the FX2s, we're going to be doing a Euro nymphing rod. We're going to do a new Predator range. We've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline coming through. So that number changes each year, sort of thing. So, and we've got lines to suit all rods as well. And yes, we've just ventured into the clothing, and that has gone exceptionally well. It genuinely has. We're not the first to market with graphene clothing, because in fairness, there is clothing from other, not in the fishing or shooting world, but more from the ski wear and mountaineering industry, have been pioneering the use of graphene in clothing. And what the graphene in the clothing does, graphene is the best conductor, or best electrical conductor, but also thermal conductor there is. So we've got a range. So we're doing a layering system. So you've got base layer, and then you've got your mid layer. You're going to have your puffer jacket, and then you've got your waterproof jacket on top. We've created a layering, although you don't have to wear the whole layering system at the time, but the idea is that you could fish from the Bahamas to the Arctic, and you'll always be dry, and you'll always be warm. So you can have just a t-shirt on or one of the base layers on in really warm weather. You can have just the mid layer by itself on, or the two layer base and mid on together. And then if it's colder, you can put the puffer jacket on. And what that does, it helps to spread the heat around your body. So, and it can regulate, and this is proven, it can regulate by 15% your body temperature,
wow,
both hot and cold. It's amazing. This is genuinely state of the art. It really is. And the other, it's not taking my word for it. You can see what the other companies that are doing graphene clothing will all tell you this as well. So everything done looks really good. It feels fantastic against your skin and on. Looks really good, and also is very, very practical, where you can. It's not necessarily heating you up, but it's regulating your body temperature by 15%. So you'll never feel hot, and you're not shouldn't really feel cold in it either.
Well, I'll have to give you a shout soon, because I've had bad luck with waterproofs for years. And do you know what? Many, many years ago, there was something called Aquatex. Sierra did.
Yeah.
And they was middle of the road, decent price, and it was fantastic, right? And I honestly thought, this is the best I've had. And the mistake I did, I got rid of it, right? Because you had an option of getting EWS, Grays, Hardies at the time. And I got the Hardies, and it was like a tea bag. I gotta say. And I wish I never got rid of it. And since then, I've tried different ones and nothing really. Because when you're on a loch in a big wind, you can, it's almost as close as throwing buckets of water over you. And
Yeah.
I got a friend who's in the army, and he gave me some army gear he have, and it's 100% waterproof, but it looks like I'm on manoeuvres because it's camouflaged. So I'll have to give you a shout, I will. And
it's absolutely. Well, we've just designed a jacket, then we can prove it's the most waterproof jacket on the market. It's been independently tested, and the hydrostatic test has come in as the most waterproof jacket that's way more than any of the other brands that are out there on the market. I don't want to sort of name different brands, but but even the big guys that do this I think are quietly worried. Again, going back to the design through experience, what we did for the wading jacket is made it very slightly longer than normal, and there's several reasons for that. One, if you're travelling, sometimes you'd have to, if you get a wading jacket and it's quite short, you can't really wave it sort of like travelling through the airport or in a restaurant because you think that jacket's about, it doesn't look really right. If they don't realise you're going fishing, they'll think, why is that guy's jacket so short? So we've made it still short enough that when you're wading, you can still wade deeply, but that little bit longer, just so you can wear it anywhere, and you can go travelling it, you can go to the pub in it or whatever, and it doesn't look out of place. But also in the back, there's a little bit, it comes down a little bit further. So if you're sitting on a boat with that jacket on, the water will actually drip off and drip on the floor. It won't drip onto your trousers and
right.
your backside getting wet and stuff like that. So it'll certainly help for that as well. And it's been proved to be, independently proved to be the best waterproof jacket on the market. So we've had a bit of a delay. The jackets are just coming to market now. They'll be here by the end of this month. We actually had a problem trying to get the really good quality YKK zips. There was a problem trying to get them, and that delayed everything. So the mid layers and the base layers have gone fantastically well, and the Puffer and the waterproof jacket, main jacket, is on its way now, and it should be here soon. We've seen the samples, and I am very excited about this coming out, and I can see us going into clothing in a big way going forward.
Well, you've achieved so much in your career from the fishing and through the business. Have you got any other goals you want to achieve?
We're just going to keep the whole thing going. It doesn't stop, and to be honest with you, can't stop. We've just had, let's say, won the last 3 tackle tests and the biggest fishing magazine in the UK. The new FX2s have gone exceptionally well. The plan to do more fly lines. We're going to do a lot more in the clothing, and also luggage. Travel bags is the next big thing. We're going to design some luggage, because a big problem that we've seen, a lot of people say to me, Scott, of going destination fishing, which a lot of people do now. They go to various places, or even if they're just coming to the north of Scotland, they might be flying from London, or going from the UK over to Ireland or Iceland or wherever. And the bags, at airports, we've all seen the baggage handlers. They're not the most gentle of people, and they're throwing these bags about, and your bags get burst, and quite often the wheels get knocked off your trolley bags, and the handle gets snapped, and we've all heard and seen in the horror stories. So we're trying to design some really good quality bags that are, I wouldn't say are indestructible, because there'll be a baggage handler out there who'll have a mission
I know.
to make sure wheels off.
Do you know what? I had an incident, good few years ago now, and I'm not sure where I was flying to now, and I was with a friend of mine, Saul, and we were fishing, and the rods everything went in through the luggage, and then we went into departures. And literally about 10 minutes before departures, on the tannoy, he came up, because Ceri Jones come down and they just explained where I needed to go to the check-in. And I thought, what the hell? And then I just looked at Saul. I said, what's happened here now? So I went down, and what they had done, I had a a Loomis Stream Dance, which was a 3-piece, and it was now 7 pieces. They just made a right mess of it, you know. But fair play, it was all good. They said, here's the form, fill it in, and I had the money almost straight away. It was good, you know. But
that's good. Oh well,
yeah. But
it's just that it's just there. But you know, if you'd got to your destination, and you know, and we've heard of, you know, we now sell what industry in the salmon rods. We probably sell 80, maybe 85% 6-piece rods rather than 4-piece.
Yeah.
Massive move on now to 6-piece rods because they fit in the suitcase so well, and you don't have to take big long tubes and you know, the airports affectionately, or the airlines affectionately charge you sporting good tax, which is probably much of your flight cost for yourself, you know, and so getting it in your bags, you know, it's a big saving.
Do you find it loses much in the action? A 6-piece and a 4-piece or 3-piece?
Zero. Absolutely zero.
Really?
In fact, you would say that FX2 is a 12, 7, 13, 7, 49. We've just come out with an FX2, a 6-piece switch rod shortly as well. Absolutely, you would never know. You could close your eyes and you would never know that the biggest seller for us is get a FX2 13-foot 7-inch. And that is the sweetest, most powerful rod and user-friendly rod you'll ever cast. It genuinely is. You would. There was a time, I think, when multi-piece rods they were heavy. They didn't flex properly, but there was a day, but not nowadays, and certainly not on our rods. No, amazing. Let's say 75-80% of the rods now are 6-piece that we would sell. You'll see a wee bit more putting them up and taking them down, especially if you're taping rods and stuff like that. But
it makes you think how far it can go, isn't it? Like I've been fishing for 40 plus years, and you know, at the time, fiberglass was the thing, and then it was carbon, boron, and you think they're never going to make anything better, and then something else comes out, like cars almost. You think, how can they better it? And all of a sudden, now you've got these, then the FX2, the graphene. You know, you think, how can they make anything better, really?
If I'm being honest with you, I thought that when we did the FX1s, when we made the FX1s, I thought, you know, we were on the BBC News and international news, you know, in the Times, the newspaper, in the Times, and, you know, huge publicity, huge thing. I thought, how do I bet that? How are you going to top that almost, you know? Yeah. And but it was 7 years. I kept the FX1s going for an extra 2 years. So the lifespan of a fishing rod for us is normally about 5 years. We've looked to freshen things up about every 5 years. And I got to 5 years with FX1s, and I thought, you know, is there any out there? And I won't change something just for the sake of changing it. It has to be better. If you're coming out with a newer model, there has to be an improvement in it. And for the first year, I thought, well, if not so, and they were selling well, so I thought, right, let's just keep this going a bit longer and just see what happens. And I heard of new carbon coming from Japan, and you know, you always hear these bold claims. This is so much lighter and better, and you know, stronger. And then we got the samples in, and I was a child on Christmas Day. I really was. I was delighted when I got the samples in, because it was lighter, it was more user friendly, but at the same time retaining the power, and just everything as you described earlier on was exactly what we look for in a rod, and we had it, and it was better, and I was so happy. I really was. So it's amazing. So it is still improving. You think there's a point where how light can rods get, or how can you? But at the moment, it's still we're still improving things more and more.
Yeah, I vow anyone not to pick up the rod and not have a smile on their face.
That's the job done when you see that, and we get that all the time. It shows it. And the way, to be honest, you know, if I'm trying to sell a rod again, I'll not give the hard sell, because if that rod's good enough, you shouldn't have to give it the hard sell.
It sells itself, doesn't it?
it's just a pull bit line out there. You try it and say nothing, and then you turn around. As soon as you see that smile, you know that you've got a sale, so to speak, and it is. And you just say, well, if it's better than your existing rod, whatever brand, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's even a Mackenzie from a previous model. It should be able to sell itself, and it does every time. Yeah.
Well, I've enjoyed the chat. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I'm
from the north of Scotland. We can talk, all right. That's for sure.
Well, there's one more question. You know what I'm going to ask you now. Before we wrap up, where would you want to be to make your last cast?
Oh, now my heart is in Scotland, as it should be, but I think there is one pool in the Racer River in Norway, which I've had some great times, and my son and me have had some fantastic fish off it over the years, and it's called Mikanogan. It's on Zone 9 on the River Race in the north of Norway, and that is a special pool. It's an absolutely fantastic pool and holds some fantastic memories of us catching fish in it. So probably there, certainly for that pool, does stand out for me as something a wee bit special for sure, you know. So it would probably be there.
Many thanks, Scott.
Aye, Ceri, lovely speaking to you, buddy. And
I'll probably see you in the Irish Fly Fair. Stevie Munn Show, probably. That's the next time I probably...
Yeah, Stevie Munn Show. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I look forward to seeing you there. I'm sure we'll manage a Guinness or two there.
Maybe next season we'll try and work it, and I'll come up and have a day fishing with you somewhere.
Well, you'll be welcome in Scotland anytime, you know that for sure. So yeah, no problem at all. But no, thank you for your time today, and it was lovely speaking to you.
Many thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Ceri. Take care, buddy.
If you've enjoyed this podcast and want to listen to more, please consider becoming a patron, where you'll get weekly podcasts from some of the biggest names in the sport and access to over 190 episodes. Plus, for this month's Patreon prize, Scott has given away a prize available to paid Patreons only. The chance of winning a Mackenzie trout fly line of your choice. To become a patron to the channel, visit patreon.com/casting with Kerry Jones or visit my website castingwithkerryjones.com. That's all for now. Tight lines, and may they always be up in the wave.